Hola, hola. Buenas tardes. Vamos a empezar. Buenas tardes. ¿Podemos irnos sentando, por favor? Buenas tardes, por favor, un poco de silencio que vamos a empezar. A ver, por favor, vamos bajando ya la voz. Vamos a empezar. Buenas tardes, bienvenidos todos y todas a esta conferencia que se va a impartir aquí esta tarde en el Colegio de Arquitectos. Soy Miguel Lasso de la Vega, soy el director de la fundación del colegio y también profesor en la Universidad Europea. Veo aquí también compañeros y también alumnos, antiguos alumnos y algunos alumnos actuales que están aquí en la sala. Nada, simplemente dar la bienvenida. Siempre para el colegio es un placer tener un acto más o una actividad más de relación con las escuelas de arquitectura, con las universidades, con lo cual, bueno, pues desde luego, y además contar con una asistencia tan multitudinaria, para nosotros desde luego es un placer. Así que bienvenidos y ya directamente voy a dar la palabra al profesor Eduardo Arroyo. Muchas gracias.
Bueno, buenas tardes. Good afternoon to the ones that are attending this event via streaming on our YouTube channel. We're going to handle this in English today, so Xavier will give his lecture in English, and afterwards we will have the jury critics of some of the masterworks, also in English, and then for the ones that are resistant, we will have some wine and a bit of Spanish wine at the end. I'm here today on the basis of the organizer of the cycle of conference lectures, Artificiales. This is the 10th lecture of the year. It's a cycle which is inserted inside the master of the School of Architecture. And, well, it's been a long wait. You know all that this was cancelled some time ago, so I think it's great to have Xavier here today. We're going to have some words by the director of the School of Architecture, Engineering, Science and Computing. Yeah? And then afterwards, we'll have some words by the director of the master.
Thank you, Eduardo. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a real privilege to be here for the school, to be here at the COAM. It's a great opportunity. And not being an architect, something that you mentioned, I want to say what it means for us, what you guys are. We live in the world that you have designed and created. We used to live in the caves, and now we inhabit the houses that you have designed and work in the offices that you have created, and all these places, and we take it for granted, are spaces that you designed and you created to give us safety, to give us comfort, to give us shelter, and beyond that, which already is a lot, all these places, like this one, they give us inspiration. So thank you for that. What you do is what enables communities to grow and what also fosters this personal growth that we experience. So it's always a privilege to be in contact with you and to have the unique opportunity of listening this afternoon to a very prestigious architect, Xavier de Geert. The school thanks you for your presence here. Thank you so much. Please enjoy all the session. Thank you. And
Good afternoon. Thank you. We are here today to celebrate the end of this course in the Professional Master. Thanks, Eduardo, for all your work this year. Thanks all the students also for their hard work. Here we're seeing some examples of our experience in the last years. And I think for us it's very important to be able to put together all this effort from the students and give them the opportunity to explore also international backgrounds, as today we're going to see, and enjoy the lecture, where I understand we're going to see work that happens in very different places, and that's one of the main goals of our master. So trying to understand how our work should happen not only here, where we are working and growing, but also it could happen in many other places. Thank you.
So today we have the pleasure to have Xavier the Gator here. He might not need presentation at all, but anyway, I'm going to say some words. He founded XDGA in Brussels after working in OMA for several years in some mythical projects that I was happy to share with. I remember when I arrived at OMA, there was only one guy that Rem could have talked straight to, so it was Xavier. No? At that time in '89, I knew that he was the important guy in the office, actually, the one thinking and the one behind many of these mythical projects like the Paris Bibliothèque or the Zeebrugge or the Karlsruhe projects, which are now like history. He's got an office in Brussels, also in Paris. No? He works in many countries. He practices architecture, urbanism, and landscape design. So it's a kind of wide work altogether mix in the developing of his practice. For the last 30 years, he has managed to build a significant portfolio, worldwide recognition, thanks to a unique approach. It counts like 5 monographs, some of them a couple of them by El Croquis, the Spanish magazine. And he's got also the Mies van der Rohe Prize and some solo exhibitions going around the world. His architecture is about opening possibilities and dealing with uncertainty, which is the key word of the 21st century. Enabling unforeseen scenarios. His way of working is to carry out a meticulous scanning of context, understood as a field of social, economical, political, administrative, and technical issues, all on an equal level. No? Something we also develop in the school, no? To make a wide, broad view about what the environment means, not only in terms of physical properties, but also in a wider understanding. This explorative approach, through a process of trial and error, leads to a working method and not to a restrictive style, which is also something that we will see in the conference. No? Not having a style is probably one of the best things to become a good architect, which saves him from dogmatic thinking and all too narrow agenda. So, Xavier, welcome to Madrid. The audience is yours.
Good evening. Glad to be here, finally. This lecture is going to take maybe a little longer than what you are used to. It seems you are used to 1 hour, and I will need at least 1.5 hours. The lecture is split in 2 parts. First part is a more or less kaleidoscopic overview of a number of projects that we are actually working on. So I will not go too much in depth with these, just to give you an image of the scope that we are dealing with. And then after there is a part that deals more in detail with a number of projects linked to, directly linked to a number of teams in architecture that occupy us since quite some time. So I will go relatively fast also if I find how this works. We are expanding. I mean, most of our work is used to be in Belgium and France. We worked a lot in France in the beginning, simply because at the beginning of our office, Belgium did not have a regular system of competitions, while France did have it, and so we built up some experience in France for that simple reason. Today, we also begin to work in Germany, which has even more rules than Belgium or France. But happily, we also work a lot today. I think 1/3 of the office is now working on projects in Albania. And we are certainly not alone there. There is this fantastic circumstance that an artist happens to be prime minister. A prime minister who or an artist who rolled into politics because the art school where he used to teach in Tirana got involved in protests against the communist regime in 91, around 91, and that's how he became part of one of the new parties. He started his career with being mayor of Tirana without having any budget. And the first exercise or the first action he undertook was to have all kinds of artists and architects to paint facades of mostly priorly communist buildings. The city had no money, and in the meantime, he was selected, or he was elected 1 week ago, 1.5 weeks ago, for his third time as prime minister. And basically, there is maybe 150 foreign architects active today in Albania. Many of them in Tirana, but also in the coastal areas, other cities, and so on. So that is a kind of dreamland for us somehow, with its own difficulties, but especially with a lot of potential. I will come back to that later. A first project I want to talk about, I will go very fast, is in near Frankfurt, our first project to be realized in Germany, which is a very large art school with all kinds of departments, and it is situated in Offenbach, and I will only explain the essence of the project, which is that they worked about 15 years on getting this new project, being in a number of different buildings before, without the different departments influencing and inspiring each other, because they were simply in different buildings. So the most important issue for them was to have one building in which there is an exchange and where something new could grow out of the merging of the different departments. But as you can see here on the map, we are in Offenbach, and there is one urbanistic rule that cuts this dream almost literally, in the sense that there is the diagonal that you see here is a view from the city center that is to be remained free towards the skyline of Frankfurt and towards the water, the Mainz, river Mainz that sits along it. This is the site, and it means that the site is automatically divided in two. So what can you do in such a situation? The client wants one building. So what we proposed is very simple. As we do in many projects, our goal is reached not through the building, but through the unbuilt space. We create a kind of, the black that you see here is a garden that binds two separate buildings together. that is half public. The diagonal goes across it, and the garden itself has a very strict outline, while the periphery of the site, the boundaries of the site, define the other side of the building. So the building has no form, one could say, but on the other hand, the garden has a very strong. And this garden is emphasized inside the building by a very large corridor that is not just circulation, that is 5 meters wide, almost 7 meters high, and that will serve for many things. It connects the different disciplines, the different places, different rooms. It is also a working space, as it is 5 meters wide, and it will also be an exhibition space. So we hope many things at the same time will happen in this blue ribbon around. And as you can see, the northern part on the top of the drawing is a kind of buffer towards this communal garden, while the south part is a buffer against the important car axis that sits on the south. But again, also here it will be a kind of shop window of the school towards the outside world. And the rest of the construction is quite simple, also quite German, I would say, very straightforward. Mies would be happy with it, I hope. This is a view, competition view onto the garden, with across it this diagonal that remains always totally public. So a very simple concrete structure with a kind of second skin in steel that deals with all the demands in terms of sun screening, light, and so on. A view, also a competition view of this central space, buffer, expo, workspace, circulation space, high and also connected through a number of stairs to the upper levels behind. This is how the school basically will look, very elementary materials all together, concrete, a little bit of wood, lots of glass, lots of glass on the north, evidently. They also used to have a car design department, but that is now closed. So now these days they have a mobility design department. But this is the atmosphere of the school, and this is a more recent image that shows the project as it has been worked out after the competition in the technical way, and one looks from outside one of the short facades, the east facade in fact, where the building is not much more than a stacked gallery with this interior garden behind. Very simple as a project. Something that is somehow comparable, this project is also the introductory image that you showed, is a campus in Belgian Limburg, which used to be a coal mining area until 20 years ago, that now looks for a new economy, that wants to give possibilities to starting companies that do not really have production yet, but who needs ateliers, offices, labs, and so on in order to develop products. So this is a public, semi-public project, so financed by the authorities and then rented out to different companies. And the concept is like this. A huge thing in itself, of which up until today 1/4 is built. It is basically one building with a central 36-meter wide lane for the largest trucks to be able to turn inside, covered with ateliers on both sides, with labs on the intermediate level, and with, under the black that you see here, a full level of offices that through patios are sometimes visually connected with the spaces under it, so that there is a kind of intense exchange possible between atelier, office, and lab. In other cases, it's just a patio, and it works. The office works as a more independent area. But there is this possible flexibility. Here you see the surface of the offices that will be subdivided into many different. Here you see the level along the streets, small bands of the labs, and they sit as a kind of mezzanine inside the ateliers that are up until now 8 meters high. This is the first quarter that was built last year with very elementary materials. You might not quite well see it, but this facade is pure aluminum, corrugated aluminum. This is polycarbonate, this is glass, and everything black is also enameled glass. This is the lane with the different entrances for trucks to enter, but also for pedestrians to enter. So the offices have this steel structure that makes it possible to have no columns at all in the ateliers that sit under it. So quite big spans. This is a cross view through the central lane towards the atelier on the other side. This is this is the level of the labs that is not really filled in yet. And then there is the ateliers of 8 meters under it. Another recent thing we did is in the city of Leuven, provincial city, but with a large university, with an absolute scarcity of housing possibilities. What you see here is an area that used to be a brewery site that is being developed into a new living area, of which we made the urban plan together with Stefan Beel architects, but inside of which each architect does different buildings. And so far, we did 2 of them. One tower, which you see on the right, and one horizontal housing block. They define a park that sits in front. The tower is again completely cladded in glass, all kinds of different glass. This is the north facade. The black that you see is in fact the transparent windows, and then there is a translucent glass that covers the opaque parts, and the less black covers the walls. North facade was the previous one, south facade is this one. All of the outside spaces are concentrated on the south facade. You see that it is built up of 5 different vertical slices, and one slice is lifted up in order to make a transparent entrance. That gives, when coming from the other side, gives a direct view through the building towards the future park that sits on this side. So glass and then brick, enameled brick for the horizontal housing slab that also has a part on the further on that is in fact care center. These are individual apartments, and the section here is a kind of stepped thing that steps towards the north in order to make optimum outside spaces on the south, again giving onto the future park, with terraces that step back from floor to floor. Also, there is a lot of repetition, and there is this sliding elements that make it possible to protect the terraces. In some case, black glass that protect against the sun in some cases, that protect in terms of privacy in other cases. So this regularity is interrupted by simply sliding panels that some have only one, some have 3, and so on. That was basically optional in the, these are private apartments sold piece per piece. And every apartment has at least one, and there was optional other panels to be chosen. As you might know, the climate in Belgium is quite not stable, And outside spaces that are pure terraces can, in fact, rarely be used as such. So having this protective screen makes it possible to also use it in between winter and summertime. This is something that is under construction. In fact, the concrete work is done. This is the first project I will show that happens in Albania. The program is quite special. It is a puppet theater. They have a tradition of puppet theater that is still alive with today a very old infrastructure, and so they will get a completely new venue, which is basically a simple cube, but the special thing is that it stands on the border between a very large park and the city. And so the whole issue has been, because it is part of a series of 3 buildings that we will do. On the right, there will be the National Library, that is for a big part a National Archive. There will be this theater, and there will be a commercial high-rise next to it. The specific thing is that each of these buildings will establish a specific relation to the park. So the important thing was not to just put buildings there, but to create a kind of urban entrance towards the park. And in the case of the theater, that means that there is a podium on the level of the park that is in a slope. And by making a more or less traditional section, we open the podium also towards the garden so that outside performances are equally possible with the same basically the same theater infrastructure. On top of it sits a theater and dance school that is completely organized around one patio, with the exception of an intermediate floor that has very large theater, training, dance and theater space, an atelier. And the specific thing about the building is that it will fold open. First of all, towards the park in order to open the theater to the park. That is this thing that can be, when closed, is just like this. So it's a huge screen that of about 30 by 16 meters in this direction. And we also have these on the other side in order to provide all the necessary protection against the sun for these different spaces inside. So these are in perforated corrugated aluminium, while the whole facade, as you could see, is simple, cheap, in fact, corrugated aluminium. So yeah, one image to show you what it will look like towards the park during a performance. We go on. We stay in Albania. The first thing we ever did must be, I think we won it more than 10 years ago now, is for an entire city of 250,000 inhabitants that sits on a very beautiful seascape with islands in front and so on. The city is called Vlora. And we did, and that is very, very remarkable for Albania. That is somehow underdeveloped. They first spent energy and money in public space, and after comes the development of all kinds of private initiatives. So this is about, this line is about 8 kilometers of shoreline, of which we, with all kinds of things, with sport fields, with pavilions, with restaurants, with beach, with park, gardens, squares, and so on. We realized about 5 out of the 8 kilometers, but in the middle there used to be the former harbor of the city that is in fact very much in the center. This is kind of central axis that leads to the historic center of the city. And this harbor has been moved out of the city recently. A developer came and is making a marina here with a whole new development behind. So we are doing these 15 housing blocks that you see here. There is a Hyatt Regency hotel. There will be other buildings along it. We also did this park that you see here. It's realized. We don't do the new marina, but all of the urbanism and architecture we do. Together, more or less 250,000 square meters. And the central element is derived from our plan for the coastline, which is a promenade that changes all the time in terms of situation. Sometimes it sits along the water, sometimes it goes inside, and it it's a continuity, but it creates all kinds of different situations. And so you see this promenade pass here through the park, through the center of the new neighborhood, and under the Hyatt Regency, it goes to the north. This is an impression of what it will be. The construction also started of this whole complex. This is how it will look, and all the housing buildings have this facade that is a concrete screen, let's say, of 12 centimeters thick, behind which you have public space, terraces in general. And that goes for the side facades that are very close to each other from building to building. The front facades, they have direct views, terraces towards the sea. And so the whole plan is also shifting so that the maximum number of buildings has this sea view, all while making a real new urban neighborhood. This is just an impression of what this concrete screen will do. There's a continuous pattern of openings or protection against the sun, and in that are cut different sizes of windows, depending on the function that sits behind. Another project that is still that is not being built yet, but that will come now with I think with the third term of the Prime Minister, is in a city that is even more south, that in fact it's still Albania, it's near the Greek border, and it faces the island Corfu. The city is called Saranda, and it's a city that developed without any urban plan. So where we are is also, again, the harbor, the existing harbor, where there's mainly yachts and cruise ships passing by. The site available is relatively small, and the harbor will continue to function. But there will be these three sculptures, let's say, that are basically apartment buildings with public functions on the lower levels, plus parking. And here you get the first impression of the relation with the existing city. In fact, what sits direct behind here is apartment blocks of 4 up to 6 levels maximum that sit on a hill. And behind the hill, there's again the sea. And so the relation between new buildings and the city looks like this. In the horizontal part of the new buildings, you look over the whole city, while the city looks through these gates towards the ships and towards the sea. And so there is this interaction between public, private, old, and new. Few images of the public space that sits in between. From one of the existing streets. This is a collage of how it will work. So that's under development. In the same city of Vlora, we won more than a year ago now, we won the remaking of a communist football stadium. competition that, in fact, almost all the projects we do in Albania that are public are the result of competitions. And what is, I think, interesting here is that the Edi Rama, the Prime Minister, decided, as a strong contrast with most developments of football stadiums, in general, people put new stadiums outside of the city in the middle of a sea of cars. He initiated this project that is only 1 out of 3 football stadium projects in Albania, to keep them inside the city and to consider them as a future catalyzer of the urbanity of the city. So a whole exercise not only to make these fit within the UEFA rules, but also, again, they have no budget, public budget, to make such stadiums. So the whole exercise is about creating enough commercial square meters that can pay for the stadium itself. So it is not only in the middle of the city, it is also surrounded by apartment buildings, commercial buildings, and so on. And so the stadium in which we are now is that the stadium will not only be a catalyzer, but there is a similar surface, created behind that will be the start, a public space, that will be the start of the reorganization of everything that sits behind. There's also a former sports building that will be rebuilt, that will be connected to the whole. So the whole thing is, again, very large, and the stadium itself is maybe only 20% of the whole, of the total budget. This is a competition model where you see. There's also, in fact, an existing apartment block here, which might mean that in the beginning of the building construction of this, it will simply remain, and it will be like a kind of pied dans le plat inside this totally new project. And then in the course of time, it will be very probably replaced. And the most maybe exaggerated commission we have, and I don't really believe it will ever be built, is a development south of Vlora, where there is almost nothing. There is a village and there is a horizontal terrain facing the sea, where we made a master plan to make future touristic developments. And the basis of this master plan is simply there is an existing marina, there is the sea, there is the coastline, and we, as it will be for sure be phased, we proposed a number of nuclei, urban nuclei, pretty dense altogether, with interconnections in between them, mostly soft mobility. And in between it, there will be not only gardens, but also simply agricultural land that will remain. So there's this somehow strange combination. And the design itself is probably preliminary. It's more a plan that shows the potential. And each of these elements that you have is in between 80 to 100,000 square meters. So we did not design them all. We took a piece of Amsterdam here with a canal in the middle. We took the Malevich objects and we hollowed them out in order to make a huge hotel. This is a piece of Barceloneta with the density of Barceloneta and with the same proportion of the streets in between. And this is the Copan building, just a copy, same size, 90,000 square meters, same height, but with the only difference that there is a public balcony somewhere halfway, and then there is some other modernistic thing that we copied. In order to educate the client, let's say. Altogether 450,000 square meters, but I don't think it will ever be built. The nice thing is also that these projects are directly discussed with the authorities and with Rama. Once we agree, and we agree very fast and very often, and in principle 2 weeks after you can get the permit. Very efficient. The sad thing is that Albania wants desperately to enter the European Union, which will of course mean that this rich freedom and potential will soon disappear. This is maybe a last project we are actually working on in the city of Durrës, which is the main harbor city, a very irregular site that you see here in white with old derelict buildings around it, not all of them, and with as an only rule. In the beginning, when we started this project, we asked the authorities what height could we do here, and their answer was, "You're the architect." And with an only rule that we have to keep 5 meters off of existing building, even if this one is just ready to be. It's a one-layer building, a hangar, a little hangar. But yeah, that's then the only rule. And so this irregular site was split up in different orthogonal forms that together form this complex that is remains relatively transparent. That is at its highest point 100 meters, but that also has intermediate spaces that are much more on the scale of the city itself. So that's the kaleidoscopic part. Now I want to go a bit more in depth with sometimes older projects. We have been discussing some of them this afternoon, but I think they have each of them has some essential thinking within our office. So we like for instance, to rethink classical typologies. This one is about the tower in general. As you know, towers in general have their core in the middle, and their lateral stability is often based only on the core. Then you get space around it. But here the question was, together with redeveloping a campus that you see here, that was once in the 50s built on virgin land outside of the city of Brussels, but that is now surrounded by extensions of Brussels that also got this ring road afterwards around it. And all companies that install themselves there, they are very visible onto the ring road, while the campus, as it was not at all visible, which is one of the reasons for us to do this new addition right here. It also sits on the central axis of the campus, and the third intention was to keep as much free space as possible for future developments. In fact, what sits inside these 70s buildings, kitchen classes, is exactly the same what we put in here. So what we did is, what we needed was spaces of 12 by 12 meters that contain one kitchen class. In order to do so, we put all the infrastructure around this central square. A kitchen class is, you will see it later, a kitchen class is basically a lot of stainless steel kitchen instruments with a space with a big table in order to be able to also get students together around one table. A kitchen class needs a lot of ventilation and things like that, really a lot. And that is one of the reasons, or that is the main reason why we didn't have to provide any sunscreening. When a kitchen class is in use, every 5 minutes, the whole package of air is replaced which means when there is a lot of heating from the sun, this heat is taken away immediately. So the central part is a glass, purely glass building. First, from some other images, we did not only this tower, but we also had to do a number of other elements, restore some things. Some things did not. This is a sports hall that was not executed in the end, but the main thing is still this tower. So as I said, 12 meters by 12 meters, completely glazed, except with all the cores that sit around. The cores contain 2 escape stairs, toilets, huge ventilation shafts, 1 elevator inside one of these cores for food, and 2 elevators, panoramic, that sit in between the cores that look directly into the classes as well as to the outside. And so the floor here is hung up from these cores that you see, with a big beam all around in order to be able to make these cantilever corners, and with a very thin concrete floor in itself. This is all the plans. Basically, the main ingredient is a kitchen class that looks like this, but also there is an entrance, reception, there is lockers, there is showers, there is storage also because it's all about food. There is a technical floor in the middle in order to still minimize the tubes for ventilation. And on the top there is a bar with a double height and a restaurant for the public that sits around a central patio. So this the void, the double height of the bar comes along the patio, and so the restaurant is 3 sides around. This is how it is built with, as you can see, the beams around, a very thin floor, a big false ceiling to contain all of the ventilation. This is how it looked during construction. So, in fact, the inversion of the traditional tower, the usable space sits in the middle, and all of the infrastructure, vertical infrastructure, sits around. This is how it looks, only concrete shafts. 1 stair is simply outside space, as you can see here. A very transparent building, especially in the evening, seen from the highway around it. A simple path that makes the whole access. There is delivery is on this side, and pedestrians come from this side. And this is how it looks from the highway, with the double height bar here, with a stair leading to the restaurant on top. This is the ground floor with the entrance pavilion and the central volume floating in between the courts. This is how a traditional kitchen class looks like. This is the intermediate technical floor. We have had people staying there, people without a house that have been staying there for some months, uncontrolled. This is a picture of the bar looking towards the highway. The other way around, looking towards the city center. And an image of the restaurant with the patio on the right. And this is how it looks at night. So yeah, very good client somehow, who was ready to have these, in order to win land, was ready to pay for these stacked kitchen classes. One other thing that we are often dealing with is we refuse to, let's say, split infrastructure from architecture. This project is about an intervention we did in the city center of Brussels, with a first image that shows how the city, dating back from the late 70s, that shows somehow how the historic center of Brussels was split up through modernity. So there was a period where this old city fabric was not important and modernity was much more important. But there's not only that. The purple part that you see here is called the North Quarter, which used to be a 19th century, let's say human scale, dense housing area that was completely taken down and replaced by a big number of office buildings. Another thing that happened with the city was that they made a underground train connection, and Brussels is really the central knot of the Belgian railway system between north and south, but also between east and west. So most railway lines pass through Brussels, which makes that through this city center, now underground, there is about 1,200 trains per day that cross the city. The demand was to reorganize a square that sits here, that is somehow a bit on the brink of these different parts of the city. So that automatically has a role of connecting neighborhoods, if possible. But the main question was not that. There is a kind of ring road around the historic city center, a rather small ring road that runs along here. What you should know to understand the project is the demand was basically to bring the metro knot that sits, and public transport knot that sits underground, which you see here. It's about this place with metro lines in this direction, metro lines in this direction, and really a lot of bus lines on the ground floor. It has four buses per minute all day. And it has, so it has this very high density in terms of mobility, and the main demand was to harmonize public space, the surface, with this underground. But in order to understand that better, this is how the public space looked like before. So everything dominated by cars and some leftover spaces that were more or less green. So the important thing is that in order to make this underground rail connection, they needed a lot of length in order to make the trains appear again onto the surface. And that was the reason, because this square that we are talking about before used to be the central square in front of the North Station of Brussels, which you see here on a picture of the early 20th century with already trams, but with a logic public function, namely the square in front of the station. They had to displace this station because of this length that was needed to make the trains come up. So it was moved towards the north, let's say 400 or 500 meters, and which all of a sudden made that this square was almost without a function until the metro was organized. And today, one could say that as many people come from the underground in a vertical way towards the square as there used to be people merging between station and square in front of it. So, in fact, quite a simple task. And these are all the elements of the project. In darker blue-gray, you see all the spaces of the metro that sit in different levels underground. There's in fact 5 levels underground pre-existing. The green is a congress space, an underground lost space that can be used for exhibitions or congresses. Light blue is an existing parking garage. And then there is the surface to be reorganized that you see here in a schematic way. And all of this is perforated until the lowest level with a new patio that concentrates all the vertical circulation towards and from the metro. And then you have the public surface, and you have a canopy that we proposed to not only to make the bus station, but also to cover this patio that has So this is schematic what we do, what is the visible part, the refurbishing of the public space and the canopy that you see. But in fact, the thing that you see is only 20% of the whole project. The form of this patio was very much limited by structural matters because this underground construction that dates back from the 70s is structurally connected to the buildings that sit around. And there's 2 towers here. And so it was not possible, for instance, to do the patio in the other direction because that would have endangered the stability of the Sheraton that sits here. So this was already a quite a delicate exercise. You see here the surface, which is basically what the elementary thing we said is that the square itself cannot become a cozy public space because there's too many towers around, and you can only slow the wind speeds by intervening on these towers, not by refurbishing the public space. So we said this is a functional square, and instead we make a kind of promenade. We shrink the car circulation and we make a kind of extended promenade that sits on the south facade of the ring road. You see the canopy that sits symmetrically in the middle, which was important for us, that sits half on the square and half inside the building line and hangs half over the public space, the promenade. And then it sits on a central socle that is basically, of which the form is derived from the structure of the canopy, but also from the pre-existing structure in the underground. There's a regular column grid underground, orthogonal, and there is a triagonal structure for the canopy. And so this socle changes from a rectangle on street level to a hexagon on the 6 meter higher. And as you can see, it covers the bus station, it covers the patio that has all of this circulation in it, elevators, a huge battery of escape stairs from the metro spaces, a monumental stair going down, an escalator going down, and a bridge, a pedestrian bridge that sits on street level and that makes a connection between a shopping street that sits here straight towards the public space that sits behind. This is how it works. In gray is what was pre-existing. In white is the patio that we carved out. So what you see is a metro line in this direction here, a double, another metro line in the other direction, a bit behind, parking garage, congress space, car tunnels here, and a pedestrian connection to a shopping center that sits on the other side of the ring road. This is a section over in the other direction, the wider part of the patio with the escape stairs. And this is a model that shows this underground situation. So we refurbished all of the semi-public metro spaces with very little budget. We made this patio that goes down about 15 meters. The escalator sits diagonally because that was the only way to get it in, basically, because of the necessary length. And that basically made the composition in the patio. You have elevators, you have a second escape stair here, you have a monumental stair that first leads from the bridge towards the congress space and then goes down to the lowest level of the metro. That looks like this or like this. In fact, this is from the seen from the lowest metro level towards the congress space that sits here, with a landing of this stair first there to go more down afterwards, with the canopy already sitting over it. Few pictures of the refurbishment of the shopping area of the metro. This is again the same model with the canopy on top. It was made in the north of Spain. It was welded together completely and then again dismantled and shipped to Brussels to be welded again. It has a central socle and with three. It's a flat cone, and that makes the whole structure very light altogether. The diameter is 64 meters. Yeah, and here can you see again this transition of the orthogonal structure of the underground towards the triangular structure that sits above, and the socle that makes this transition. This is how it stands in the public space. So, in fact, it cuts through one of the main perspectives in the city towards this huge, ugly church that sits there. It is covered in EFTE. I guess you know that. It's a plastic material that lasts about 25 years, and that is usually used in a double sheet with inflated in between. But this one is a single sheet, and it is strengthened by a cable network. So it's a single sheet that covers all of that is welded in strips together, and that covers all of the huge surface. This is how we did the public space. Basically, there is a topographical transition from the street towards the entrances of existing buildings, and this transition in height we used to do the urban furniture. The green, so the benches are simply planes that are on different levels, basically. And the green, that is not green yet here, but that sits there, in fact, sits in between. The earth is limited to 70 centimeters because there is a metro tunnel pre-existing under it, and the surface of the public space is only 80 centimeters higher. So this is one example of this furniture thing, the promenade crossed by an entrance to the parking garage. We wanted to have a real coffee shop in here, but in the end it became a Starbucks. So might be redone someday. Yeah, and as you can see, it appears in the city, although it's only 20% of the whole project, it appears practically always you see only part of it. You see some kind of a knife cutting through the street scapes. Final image from the hospital that sits on the other side. Here you see the surface of the roof. And the funny thing is that I was once in this hospital, and there was a person who asked me, is it normal that this in a storm this thing moves up to 1.5 meters up and down? And then I asked the engineer, and he said it's completely normal. Another issue that is becoming more and more important is this commands, projects that you have to do for people who don't really know what their future is. This is in the south of Brussels. It's a project called Mobilis. The client is a dealer of cars until now. They sell cars. They also do. They rent out cars for people to use it on an hourly basis. They also expand towards bicycles. So their transition is in fact about selling cars towards selling mobility, whatever that may mean in the future. But yeah, it's quite realistic that maybe in the near future they don't really sell cars anymore. Also, cars are getting more and more electrified, which means that the normal garage will also be less necessary in the future. So they asked us to do a building in which, in principle, everything could happen. And what you should know is that there is a 1930s Citroën garage in the city center standing, very large, that is being transformed at this moment into a new museum-like space. Huge thing. more than 250 million euro. So in terms of flexibility, that is quite an example. But here you see an overview of all the program parts that they need today, which still has a real garage, which has showrooms on different floors, which has all kinds of different spaces, and which also has a lot of parking space so far. So it's a kind of noble parking building. Therefore, you might ask yourself, where does this form come from? Of course, they are commercial people, and the site is irregular, drawn in red here, and they wanted to use a maximum surface of the land, while still permitting all trucks to deliver, for instance, on the left here, with turning circles and so on. The site is irregular, so the proposal for the volume was to do a more or less undulated surface as big as possible, perforated with patios in order to, in theory, be able to get enough daylight everywhere. Also, it sits on a corner, on a cross point, where the main shopping or showroom will be placed, and that the turning circles together with the irregular form of the site basically define the form that after the competition changed quite a bit, adapted to all kinds of things, but the basic form remained, and this is the final model that we made with glazed surface on the front half, and with a kind of open floors on the back side, which faces the canal of Brussels. So also very visible. What is special about this building is that we proposed a structure in very heavy concrete for every second floor, kind of waffle structure on the basis of a 16-meter column grid that you can see here in black, with intermediate floors that are hung from this main structure on the basis of an 8-meter grid, which are the thin points that you see here, simply hung, which means that they can be taken out in the course of time without affecting the facade, basically, and without affecting the main structure. So these concrete floors, they can have more than 1,000 kilo per square meter, so very heavy, in order to not only carry 2 floors, but also to carry whatever activity might happen in the future. And this is a schematic section that shows it. In red is the steel structure hanging on these rods that you see here, for instance, 8-meter grid. Of course, everything based on a regular parking grid, but permitting all kinds of functions in the future. And this is, in that sense, this programmatic instability also makes one think of sustainability in another way. Okay, there's lots of concrete, but the different parts of the building are very much separated. As I said, the whole facade is really independent from the floors, not from the concrete floors, but from the steel floors in between. So here you see the whole concrete structure. This represents the intermediate steel floors that might be taken out someday or partly. This is the wrapping, basically, of the building that lasts more or less 50 years compared to this that could go for more than 100 years. While joking, we call this the future museum of Brussels in 50 years, maybe. Then there is the infrastructural part of the building, stairs, elevators, escape, and so on. And there is partitions that are even more temporarily. Some pictures of the construction. Here, mainly concrete with columns of 80 by 80 in black concrete, and the beginning of the intermediate steel floors that you see here. This is the space of the garage so far, which is double height. Further construction pictures. So large scale, and this is the finished facade towards the canal that is mainly one ramp with lots of parking surface. And this is the facade towards the main street, glazed, somehow protected against the sun by these lines sticking out. With the patio's perforations in the plan of which you see one here, with a huge escape stair, but also functioning as an entrance for the spaces that sit around it, because they will also, for the time being, rent out spaces. In the beginning, not everything is for them. Here we look on the ground floor into the garage that is half sunken underground. All of this in order to maximize the use of this site. The ramp going up, passing by, view of the parking outside, view of the garage itself. That may shrink in the future. And the central patio with a bicycle shop here, with a car showroom here, not filled in here yet, waiting for future use. This is the quality, let's say, of these spaces. Quite rough, but at the same time completely defined through these curves. So these could become offices, but they can also become something else. It could become restaurant, it could become... in the beginning, the intention was to do urban farming on the roof that has been replaced by mainly solar panels, and this is a kind of overview from the main boulevard with one central patio here, which is the main entrance for everything that is mobility related, and this one outside patio with these vacant spaces around it. We also already discussed this afternoon the Antwerp province house that we did a few years ago, which is, of course, in the city of Antwerp, which was the second competition for this area, because during the first competition, the whole situation in terms of property changed. But the main issue is that before the province department was all of this, with a site that is more or less outlined like this, where one can see that when not built, it is mainly mineralized. And the province wanted to get rid of almost all of this, their main building being a 70s building that was built in such a way that it could not at all be adapted to today's standards. With another main ambition to make the maximum of this surface publicly accessible, in order to make a park that is existing here, public, that existing here, and that could make one whole in this way, in the center of the city. But then there was very strange, all of this is very logic and very decent and so on, noble even. But then there was this strange demand that this pavilion had to be kept. Pavilion, this thing is 70 meters by 30, more or less. And in the competition, we kept it. We had to keep it basically for political reasons. It was only finished in the 90s, which means that, politically they could not afford to destroy a building that only had, at that time, 25 years or so. And so we kept it. And, but very soon we thought, during the competition, well, here you see the overview. The site is here. You see the city center of Antwerp. The site is this, together with the other green spaces that sit around. The site is, in fact, only this. A main street on one side and a local street on the other side. And together, this is as big as the city center park. Very small park, very much mineralized city with the main green spaces sitting on the outskirts of the center, but then interfering with the ring road. so not very valuable green spaces. So very noble intention of the province to provide more green public space. As I said, this is the pre-existing situation. This building being a classic building, also belonging to the city, with this pavilion, as we call it here. Basically, it's a 70s building, and whenever I entered there, it made me think of Brezhnev in terms of climate and style inside. Not very attractive for us, but we had to keep it. And so one main thing we thought was that if one wants to connect the park with this potential green space here, then this is really like a kind of threshold in between in order to make any form of continuity. So to break that threshold, we proposed for ourselves to put all of the new program across this existing pavilion in order to break the threshold, but also in order to make the main entrance close to the street. But then we didn't like this configuration, basically because the most qualitative part of the non-built space sits here. And this kind of program, this kind of volume, divides, again, as the streets are here and here, divides the site again in a front part and a back part. And that is mainly the reason why also it would put this area with beautiful old trees mainly in the shadow. And that's why we proposed this in the end. And as this is a province department thing, it's a public building, at least partly publicly accessible. So in order, it's somehow allowed, I would say, to make it into a kind of iconic building. And so, of course, this does it at the same time. This is how this new volume looks then within green surrounding going all around. And of course, that makes a kind of interesting plan configuration because what is not slanting are the cores. There's two cores basically for the high part, and they, of course, go vertical, which means that the cores start on one facade at the bottom and end up on the other facade at the top, which also defines the limit of this inclination, basically. The structure is basically these two cores, a kind of bridge construction over the existing pavilion in between the two cores, and then the facades are also structural, supporting floors with almost no columns inside the building, and with triangular windows in order, in first instance, to allow for this bridge construction. But then we went to this shows, it gives an overview of this structure, but by working it out after the competition, we found that keeping the old pavilion and restoring it and building over and so on would be at least as expensive as making it new. But the building permit was already handed in, and so we could not change the volume anymore. So we convinced the client to do it new, but within the limits of the permit. So we took it down, and this pavilion thing became a glass volume of exactly the same dimensions. You see it here. This is all of the program, so it's not at all only an office building. The office part is the dark orange, maybe brown, like. Public functions are on the ground. This thing is exhibition, congress, the main political space, and an auditorium. While here you have a restaurant that gives on this terrace in between. Above it, there is a double layer or a double height library, and the political floors are in fact only two at this moment, which are classical offices, which means cells, while most of the other offices are open office, more or less open office floors. This is the ground floor with the main entrance from the street side, surrounded by park, but still quite close to the street on this side, with the lower level auditorium with its top at park level, completely glass. And this is the hall for political decisions. While in between there is Congress and Expo possible with the implantation of the cores that are adapted to the upper floors, in fact, in order to make the upper floors effective. We go up. Yeah, this is an image of this auditorium, aluminum floor, polycarbonate ceiling with all the techniques hidden behind, although it's an open ceiling. Ventilation goes through it, lighting sits behind it, and so on. Also, even sprinklers and so on sit inside this. One central stair that links the two exhibition floors. One image that shows the, I don't know how you call it, but the materials here are white leather, the same plastic ceiling, aluminum floor, lacquered, black lacquered furniture, and copper wall with techniques inside. We go up a larger exhibition floor with main gathering rooms, with a central, central stair leading to the terrace on top of the pavilion. This stair is visible here. You see the structure of the walls, you see the cores, and so on. This stair is in fact outside. It's a kind of patio coming down from the main terrace, and the stair you first saw comes up here inside. Empty exhibition space, gathering rooms with the nice part of the park, the pre-existing part of the garden visible there. We go up further. This is the last public floor on one side. The public comes normally up until here, while here is the restaurant of the departments, with view on the terrace from the restaurant. And this is an average office floor, knowing that every floor is different because the angle of these cores change all the time when going up. And so by this warping, every wall, front and back wall, is sloping on every floor from more or less straight towards up until more than 20 degrees. These are the upper floors with, this is the library surrounded by archive space, double height, which looks like this. So only once this flooring is interrupted, basically, with iron furniture that is all laser cut, with, in fact, only two office floors together, but with three layers of three levels of books. We go to the top floors where there is individual offices for political responsibles organized around the patio. This is one corner situation. This is the patio I'm talking about. And this is a view from the park towards the auditorium that you see there at the bottom, and meeting spaces on top. And this is how the whole thing looks together. There it comes. Since at one moment, when I was working at OMA, we worked on a competition that is called Merlin Senard. That was about an urban plan for a huge area south of Paris with about 5 by 5 kilometers. That basically, we had to provide a vision on how to develop that as an extension, a further extension of Paris. Knowing that there was beautiful forests sitting around it, with also some old villages in it, with a highway crossing it, with a railway line crossing it, and with the river Seine running by here. So all of this is 5 by 5 kilometers. And I show this image because it's somehow a crucial project of OMA, I think, in the sense that it did not deal with what was to be built in the coming probably 20 years. It was at the time of postmodernism also, where style changed every 2 or 3 years. And so we did not want to bother with that. And so as a vision, we proposed to think about the space that had to remain empty, that had to become the public space. So parks as well as squares and so on. And so we traced a number of fat lines through the whole area, knowing that this is 5 kilometers. Sometimes going from one forest to the other, or like this one, from one forest to the other. They needed a university, and we thought this one could be a campus leading to a railway station that was already there. Cutting out a water that was already existing here, some village that was already existing, and so on. So the main focus was on the unbuilt, in order to better define and be more flexible in terms of future built parts. We thought that was a very strong concept, but anyhow we lost. But this principle, we use it quite often also on architectural scale. Of course, that exists everywhere. A courtyard is a courtyard and exists since a long time, but we try to develop this theme in other, somehow more innovative ways. So this project is about a museum extension in the city of Tournai, which is a small provincial city today in the French-speaking part of Belgium, but a museum made by Horta. That is this turtle form that you see here. So this diagram shows the existing situation. What you see is an organic form for a museum, thought of by Victor Horta, with its main entrance here, but sitting in a city block built up out of individual houses, row houses mostly, with empty space around it this way. And so they asked for an extension, and we thought that could be very simple, because of course this old building has never been adapted to the standards of the museum standards of today. It is slightly more than 100 years old, and the roof is almost completely in glass. So when I came there the first time, and it was in April, and it was already 28 degrees inside, while they have one of the most important collections in Belgium. Old art, Rubens, Van Eyck, you name it, but mostly end of 19th century collection. And so here you see the whole concept. We simply proposed 2 things. First, this existing building is not adapted to the conservation standards of today. If we completely adapt it, that would kill the architecture. So we declare the existing building as semi-public space. The entrance remains here, but all of the controlled area sits around it and is in strong contrast. It's a grid like organization with new exhibition spaces around a much more organic form that sits in the center. And also by doing this, we half insulate the existing building, because one thing one can see is that Victor Horta was not at all interested in this city block he was sitting in. He did a main facade in stone that you see here that is more or less monumental, while all these side walls are just brick and lower quality. Also, his form dominates, and it's not really considering the context. This is an overview of the collection, the actual collection they have. You might recognize some of these. So it's the 5th collection in Belgium. This is the ceiling, the glass ceiling that lights all of these spaces, which was not specific for Horta, which was somehow common in this period. So, but all of these spaces really cannot have this kind of paintings without any intervention. You see the organic form. You can also see this is a picture from the time that the museum was opened. It took about 20 years to make it because there was World War I in between. What you can see, I think, here is with all this detailing, it is very difficult to, for instance, insulate on the inside such a building. It's also very difficult when one would lose the daylight, that's it, the architecture would completely change. Also, we calculated that we would have to cover more than 90% of the existing glass in order to adapt the museum to its role. Here you see the intermediate structure between a glass roof and a glass ceiling, the way it is made. You can do something here. You can break the light in a kind of low-tech way. But altogether, the possibilities are very limited. So this diagram is again about this important front and secondary back, which basically one could insulate without any big interventions. But all of this can not really be insulated without fundamentally transforming the details on the inside. So all of these together made us decide, let's go for the architecture. We keep it, the building, we restore it, but we don't adapt it to the standards. We use it for all of the auxiliary functions that today, that the museum needs today. And basically, one could consider it as an extension of the chain of public spaces that already exist, but then inside the building. And of course, probably you might close it at 12 at night, but you could have activities, other activities than museum activities inside this space. And basically that was, of course, again, a competition, and that's exactly the reason why we won. Because nobody had an idea how to really adapt this to the standards of today. So you see the difference here, a brick on the back walls, a stone on the front wall. This is the organizational structure. Here you see some of the details that one would not want to change, really, and that's the proposal. We fill up all of the land that sits around it. We use the existing building as an entrance and auxiliary stuff, education, cafeteria, maybe also the arms or the legs could be used for exhibiting objects, sculptures that are not depending on these rules, and so make a transition between the former exterior wall towards the new parts, and using the exterior wall as one of the exhibition devices. So here you see all the functions. This is mainly the new exhibition area, protected in the new part, half protected in the legs, public functions and museum functions in here, a cellar, a new archive under here, a kind of little tower sticking out here for temporary exhibitions, and so on. These are pre-existing underground spaces here and new here, with some patios and with a circuit that is very open in use, that is not to be predetermined, but with fixed entrance and exit points from old to new. Basically, orthogonal plan with walls, exhibiting walls in textile, with a surrounding wall basically in concrete to double all the garden and neighboring walls, also used as an exhibiting piece, but also the brick walls that sit around here. Here you see the basic section, which shows that the old building had 2 levels, or had a kind of split level on ground floor. This being the level of the main entrance, while this is corresponding to the main new extension, and that is directly connected to a side street where we do all of the livraison, deliveries for the museum. So very simple organization altogether. This model, early model, shows the confrontation between the grid and the organic, which in our eyes is an important part of the architecture. It makes all kinds of irregular spaces around here. Some of the walls can turn so that the larger spaces can be made. This is how the central space would be used. It has, in fact, 2 levels in the back where also the personnel office spaces are situated. This is a competition image that is supposed to show the multi-use of the central space with cafeteria and ticketing and so on, education and so on, all around. This is a suggestion for the legs of the old building to still use it. And this is one image of the new venue with basically very little daylight, most of it artificial light, with the black textile walls, with the brick wall of the previous building, and with somewhere the concrete, yeah, you see it here, for instance, and also with concrete walls that surround everything. This is the secondary delivery area with a canopy sticking out for loading and unloading, and this little tower that sits behind a screen of a metal screen, a kind of curtain metal, in order to protect the neighbors from views directly in their houses or gardens. This is how it looks from the front, the previous main entrance, and also the second, the contemporary main entrance, with new interventions, not so visible and certainly not dominating, with steel facades here, metal curtain here, with all kinds of translucent and transparent layers behind. So that is a competition we won in 2016, but the politics did not come along with us. We won, and then 10 years of nothing happening, and now there is a new mayor and it might restart. I'm close to the end. For those who are tired. A little project we did in Ghent, we realized 2 years ago. It's a school, and it sits again in a previous harbor area. OMA once made, long time ago, made a kind of urban proposal for the redevelopment of this harbor area. The site sits along one of the docks that you see here. And one thing is that this urban development can only happen gradually. So these, the first phase of the transition is in fact a narrow strip of land that sits in between a road and the water, and that has basically housing buildings with a few public buildings in between them. OMA at the time called it chopstick urbanism, which means essentially that you take a building or a building block, you have some public space, you have some green space, you have a public building again, and you connect all of them by a kind of intermediate path, public pedestrian path that creates, with the intention to create some kind of intensity from day one, let's say. So we got this site that was way too small to do a real school. Well, this is in fact the urban plan that originally OMA made, but then was later on transformed by others, but the essence remained. This is the suggestion of that path that crosses everything shown here. So in our case, it necessarily has to cross the site because we absolutely needed the whole site in order to make the program of the school. Here you see a diagram that explains it all. On the left, the site, the plot. On the right, the different parts of the program in full color, like gym, sports hall, and so on, but also classes and all kinds of things, and the corresponding outside spaces that are needed with them, and that also needed a direct connection with this inside program. So after many tests, we took a very simple decision. Half of the site would be built as high as possible within the urban limits into a very compact building that is basically dimensioned through the size and the form of the sports hall that sits on top, with under it classes, administration, a creche. It's a school for children from 3 on up until 12. So it has all kinds of different parts. And also the outside spaces, the playgrounds, have to be somehow separated. So the only solution for us was to do the other half in a stacked way. So all the outside spaces are in 3 or up to 4 levels, sitting in a steel structure that you see here. So the building is as compact as possible with a double height sports floor, with a restaurant for the school intermediate here that is also double height, with all kinds of direct connections with its outside. This is a drawing from the competition. So with the very compact building with glass, polycarbonate, sunscreens, everything you need, classes behind it. This is the outside space for a creche that has to be separated anyhow, and all of the playgrounds are sitting in here. And as I said, this is how they work. You see the south facade of the school on the background. With, for instance, this pink is the inside walls of the restaurant, with a big balcony coming out, with stairs, with slides going down, with water elements, with bicycle storage under the stair, with greenery, with a sloping garden, with objects, with climbing floors, with sports floors, and with children parliament here. That's another drawing of the facade. So the steel structure on the building is like in Offenbach, basically holding all the sunscreens and so on, but not really structural, while the left part is structural and supports the outside floors. We start from the upper floor, which is the mezzanine of the sports hall on the right, with public, a little bit of public here, with stairs and elevator up there, with a bar here directly connected to the outside terrace, with a sloping floor towards an object, playing object here, towards the outside garden, with a very slow ramp across it, because it serves as the second escape stair for the building inside. So this is not only playgrounds, but also escape. Sports floor here. View from the sports hall towards these outside spaces, with a view on the dock that sits in front. We go down to the restaurant with classes all around, giving on their own specific outside section through the building. Afterwards, after we won the competition, it became a kind of a school with not really a music school, but with an attention, enhanced attention in musical education, let's say. The restaurant, classes giving up onto a corridor that sits around the restaurant. A section through the garden, sloping garden. A view from the water side. Simple steel structure with only the necessary knots and protection, so with a mesh all around. Some people call it a kind of prison for children, but in a positive way, one could say that the prison is outside and the freedom is inside. Another view onto the dock with sand, water, and so on. And it's a bit out of our scope, but this project got a huge attention, interest afterwards. And the main reason for that is that it might be a typology for schools. Many directors of schools have the problem that they need an extension or a new building, and in general, inside cities, they lack the surface to do playgrounds. And so this might be a thing that could be repeated in many inner city situations. Some pictures to end with. This is the bar on top of the sports hall. Here you see the floor of the sports hall. It has this height, in fact. You can climb here. You have this object here. You have the garden. You have the parliament, and so on. And also, we had a real professor to advise us on the planting, because buildings with greenery are often very sad because the greenery doesn't work. And the essence here is that all the plants are not in pots on the different floors, but they start from the ground in real earth. And they grow. These pictures are taken 2 years after the planting, basically. And after 2 years, they reached a height of 15 meters, which is quite successful, I would say. As I said, there is every week there is visits from all kinds of architects and school people. And this is the image which ends this conversation. No, I stand. You stand? Oh. You all want to sit there.
Hello. Oh. Hola. No? No. Sí. Bueno, Xavier, thanks a lot for this overwhelming lecture. It's always incredible to hear you talking about the buildings, especially when the trajectory is so extended. We're going to open a short period of questions. You should profit from the presence of Xavier to make your doubts, questions, things you want to clear from what he said. So, and I will pass you around the mic.
Well, thank you very much for the lecture. I would like to ask you, as one of the few architects that has been able to work in so many different contexts in Europe, what do you see new? What do you think is attractive of this new Albanian context? And how is it changing your own practice? Thank you.
Well, the main element is freedom compared to rules in Europe. Before we were active in Albania, I thought that we needed rules in order to be able to be creative, but in fact it's not true. I found out in Albania that it's much better to have some degree of freedom. But that's maybe not the most important thing. The really important thing is that it's a small country. It has 2.5 million inhabitants at this moment. And there is one half genius, if not a genius, who, And it's a young democracy, so it's quite centralized altogether. There is an administration, but you can have a simple exchange about a new project and also when there is problems on a project, with one guy who understands everything, who appreciates the profession, as he's an artist himself, and that is really unseen in Belgium, and where they have all kinds of administrations, bouwmeesters, competition. Well, we have competitions in Albania too, but they are not regulated by all of these restrictions in general. So that's really a great thing. And as I said in the beginning, their main political ambition with his third term of prime ministership, his main ambition is to get into the European Union, which of course is the only bastion of democracy left, but somehow I prefer young democracies.
Thank you for the presentation. It was amazing. And I would like to talk about what you said about the adaptability of the spaces, because you talk about it in a lot of projects. So when do you take it into consideration? Like, for example, I know in a school you have more strict schedules and programs, but when do you take into consideration like how this space maybe in 50 years could become?
That's difficult to answer. For instance, of course, in the case of Mobilis, it was an obvious question because they are in somehow an existential crisis, and so yeah, they know that things are going to change, but they don't know exactly how. But yeah, it reappears in some of the other projects I showed. For instance, the art school is as I explained at one moment, their departments are also changing somehow. Okay, sculpture remains the same basically, but the materials change, and so the spaces needed for it might change. Also, they used to have a car design department that disappeared. So the whole structure of the building is very much adapted, structure independent from divisibility, is very much adapted to inside changes of what cannot change is the blue that you saw in the beginning. It should go all around all the time, but all the rest can basically be adapted. On the other hand, I'm also not, it's not a dogma, this adaptability, because one thing we found out is that with the Mobilis project that it's not so sure that spaces will change from 8 meters to 4 and the other way around, height. And it shows luckily it's a rich client, but this flexibility really costs money compared to traditional retail and parking buildings.
Thank you.
But yeah, as I said also, there is this 1930s Citroën garage in Brussels that is basically not at all a museum building because it's basically built up from or 3 millimeters of glass or 5 millimeters of asbestos cement. So it's totally not adapted to become a museum. And the project they are doing, it's vast. The project they are doing is to build inside of this complex new volumes that respond to all the demands and to leave all the rest as a kind of semi-public space. So somehow comparable to but in a completely different way, to the Tournai Museum. Yeah. And yeah, nobody ever thought before it was decided that such a building could become a museum area.
Anybody else? So, last question, just before going into the jury. Xavier, it's clear, I think, for everybody that, as you said, you don't have certain architectural style.
That's what we say, huh?
But, yeah, that's what you say. That's why I'm asking you. So, but at the same time, all your buildings, even the ones that are not here, they're kind of familiar between them. No? It's like a family. So maybe, and that's the question, maybe by trying not to have a style and acting in a certain way with the process of designing, you end up having a certain style?
In principle, we don't want to be busy with style. But of course, it's also inevitable as an architect. You can't escape it. But by putting all of our attention on more issues that have to do with content, I think, for myself, that we pretty much succeed in not having a style. So it's up to you to contradict it.
Yeah, it was a tricky question. Anyway, well, thanks a lot for the lecture, and then we move on to the jury. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Promocionamelo. Ah, no está encendido.
We are going to see.
Hola, hola, está apagado. Sí, pero puedo hablar en alto si quieres. Que sí, que sí. Ah, ya. Hola. Es que, vale, vale. Okay, so good afternoon and thank you all for staying for this final part. I'm here to present the project called La Central, and it's a project that redescribes and redesigns an industrial facility in the middle of a residential neighborhood. I'm going to start with 3 questions, super fast, to make you think. Could we design an artificial landscape that brings us closer to the process of water desalination? Can a 10,000 meter squared industrial facility integrate residential and industrial? Can this infrastructure be used as a meeting and learning point? So for the project, we started analyzing first Spain, because we've had a major drought the past 5 to 7 years. We've even had to take water from Madrid to Barcelona because we had to cut water. So I started analyzing where this project had to be set. And after analyzing, I went straight to Malaga, which is actually where I am from, the south of Spain. I started analyzing the urban infrastructure around El Barrio del Limonar, which is right next to the Rio Guadalhorce, which is one of the biggest rivers in Malaga. Right now there's no water, but it's really important. So after analyzing the different strategies that I could implement in my project, I managed 3 main ones, which is it's where the promenade of the seafront that connects right to the historic center of Malaga ends. There's no beautiful end, it just ends. They didn't want to make a beautiful finishing to this huge promenade. And also you have the park of the Litoral, of the neighborhood itself, which is huge. And we have a boulevard of Picasso, which it's called Picasso Boulevard. So I wanted to integrate this neighborhood with the promenade, because there's this huge highway, which is the MA22, that it's like for rails of cars. It's huge. Okay, next. So this would be the design of the project. We would integrate a massive cubierta, roof. Sorry, I did this project in Spanish. So roof, walkable roof, and a pasarela. like a walkway that goes on top of the MA22 to directly connect the park and the promenade. This would be more in depth because the park would have restaurants, cafes, co-working spaces, because it's really close to the universities in Malaga right now. This would be a section. I wanted the project to stay really low, and actually the industrial part is at -5 meters into the like you can see, because the having the sea in front of you in Malaga is really important. So I didn't want this project to make the people in the neighborhood not be able to see the sea, which in Malaga is really important, and also because we are using the water from the sea to create potable water. The structure is made of timber. We have laminated timber and CLT slabs, which they will be positioned at different parts of the beams in order to be able to have more or less soil to be able to put some trees. So this artificial landscape, we would be able to recollect the water that would go into the soil, and they will all drain into the interior patios. And we would have tanks underneath the patios using sods so that we can reuse this water also. This is the interior. Yes, another section. Another, yeah. I have to finish, yes, that's it. Ya. ¿Ese es el temporizador? Yeah. Perfecto. Vale, ¿lo dejo aquí? Este. Sí, es que no lo dejo al lado del otro porque si no va a chirriar. Que mi proyecto no es nada así. ¿Te ayuda? ¿Lo vas a romper? Tía.
Ah, sí, me escucho. No creo que hace falta con el auto que hablo. Oh. No está. Hello, I'm Sabrina. So my project is, thank you, Juanjo. My project is about the ludic. I am a very hyperactive person. For those that know me, know that very well. And I always felt that as an adult, there's not as much opportunities for us to actually be stimulated in the urban environment and even in our own houses. And that's why we're always in our phones looking for that low quality dopamine that doesn't actually give us any fulfillment. I usually start my project with this row because it shows a lot how my process also is ludic. All my process of thinking of architecture and producing architecture is always has to do with this dynamism, and I wanted to incorporate that in a project that I think represents not only me, but people like me. Okay, so I chose as a site in Sánchez de Vallecas because I think it's a very good representation of an environment that is not welcoming in the public space because it's made by closed blocks where people cannot really infiltrate. And instead of being enclosed inside your own block, I wanted my block to enclose, let's say, the whole urban space. By that, I developed, firstly, the project in 3 parts: structure, installations, and construction. Those 3 parts, I wanted to be as ludic as possible and be fully integrated so the project becomes a whole living body where everything interacts with the person. So basically, the idea is on the ground floor, you experience how your building works, how the installations work, how do you interact with them. You can observe that in first person by just passing by, or you can simply engage on games with your neighbors because it's fully open and public. Then I developed the structure part and how it's just a grid that allows the dwellings themselves to dislocate 1.5 meters left or right, and that dislocation with the installations where the water pipes shine, the ventilation pipes move like lungs, and the electricity is also completely free in your plan, you're allowed to create an environment where the neighbors interact with each other. By simply moving your house left or right, light will enter to the house of your neighbor below with multiple colors, and they can wake up with colors, red, blue, or whatever colors they want. When you're just inside your house while you breathe, you can see the pipes of ventilation breathing with you. You don't know if your building is actually alive or not. And not only that, when you leave your house, seeing all the people passing through the space and interacting, and the whole idea of being scared when a pipe suddenly shines, or just wanting to play in a certain space together. I wanted to also create between these houses an obliquous space where people can interact multiple ways by simply walking to their home. And so this is more or less the environment I envision for the project, where people can walk around and go up, down the stairs, or see all these pipes moving all at once. And That's it. The building is alive, basically. Done. Ahora sube Patri otra vez, ¿no? Sí. Claro, no me voy a quedar aquí sola, ¿no?
Okay, I have rather a question than comment or than. I'm not sure whether your project, the second, was in Barcelona. It looked like Barcelona, but. Aha, okay. It's a similar, yeah. And okay, traditionally, this kind of urbanism existing is all about clear separation between public and private. And it's basically well solved, all while allowing quite some density. I'm talking about the existing. What you do as a counterpart is, of course, raises a question on whether public needs to be separated from private. And you seem to say no. Okay, that's my comment. But you should know that that is quite difficult, especially in a very dense urban area. It might be that in the end, you need some kind of a definition of what is really public, what is eventually collective, what is private. Sure, sure.
Yes. So the type of closed block I'm actually criticizing is the blocks that are artificially created, not the ones that are organically grown, such as the ones in Barcelona. I'm talking about the closed blocks that are made for that separation of where the private happens only in the middle. When a block grows organically, it's still a type of community. That's
Okay.
That's the block I'm criticizing.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, in a way, conversation about density.
Yeah. Well, dense it is.
It's kind of a trick because
Yeah.
it seems to be, if you think about Barcelona, for example, it's dense, or the center of Madrid, you have these kind of blocks, but Vallecas is kind of a artificial separation and creation of density. Actually, there is no density there. There is no, for example, mixed use. Everything is or housing.
Yeah, I see.
So it's kind of a trick.
In that sense, it's an answer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you see it, it seems to be
Yeah.
dense neighborhood or
Yeah.
Barcelona or as you say, real block of the city. But here they are kind of just planned in that sense of trying to seem like a dense city, but actually they are not working as a dense city
Yeah.
in that sense.
Okay. I have no comments so far on this one. Maybe it comes later.
Yeah, for me, it's pretty exciting to see these projects now. How far you've got since you were trying to think of the integration of a water desalinizing plant in the middle of Malaga, right? The way I see it, you have managed to integrate all those circulations that turn those rooftops into something useful and valid as a park in the city. And I have to assume that all the workings that are going on underneath are functional enough and are okay. I'm wondering about the materiality of these things because obviously a garden roof is a garden roof, but I look at the edges of the garden roof and I look at the bits of facade and I wonder what your intentions are there. I think maybe there is something to explore in terms of how the parts of the building, which are a building and have an actual facade onto certain spaces, what kind of texture and materiality they are offering to the outside world. I think the interactions with the corridors and the passerelles and the boulevards and therefore the people who are going to be walking or cycling along the beach and ending up on top of the park, I think that's clear. But I'm not sure I can read the relationships between those other more vertical parts and all the spaces around the construction. That would be my comment. And in Sabrina's case, it's also the materiality that I would wonder about, because although some of the drawings, I mean, there were those drawings with all the stairs, all the little blocks with the housing units and the passerelles and the stairs, I thought that was quite suggestive of an intriguing, almost Pyrenean space. We saw one a second ago, but in a domestic scale. But when I see the final image, I understand it's in process, but I wonder how my body would feel in that space, if my body would feel playful in that kind of space. So I think also the materiality there is going to be quite important. I would make two more comments. One about two more comments related to the lecture we saw before. One about the presentation, the narrative in your presentations, because I thought it was really masterly the way you presented your projects, almost like starting with a mystery crime, you know, like showing an image, not showing an image of the building, but showing a succession of clues towards a decision that becomes a building. I think it was something like that. And I think if you can be inspired by that, I think it would be fantastic. And the other comment is for Sabrina, looking at the last project, the playground, and how a metal structure can be transformed into a space where you can imagine yourself rolling down a hill. And that effort, I think, could be inspiring for you.
Yeah, I don't want to make long comments, but in a way, both projects, I would link them with the idea that Xavier explained before about not separating infrastructure from architecture, trying to understand both like something that are exactly, that are interweaved. So how do you disconnect them? And I think both projects have tried to achieve that. And in that sense, I think they are the direction they're looking for. It's very contemporary and it makes a lot of sense. And also dealing with the Carlos comments, all this dialogue that we are having all the time about how this thing looks and is. Is it a building? Is it a park? Is it a park? Is it a building under a park? How are the vertical elements? Are they open, closed, semi-open, semi-closed? And this dialogue, I think it's something that you could achieve in the time you have ahead. And in the case of Sabrina, also these drawings about how you feel, how your body would feel, that Carlos was saying, I think they are critical and important. And also an important issue is, as Xavier was like, he thought you were talking about Barcelona or Madrid, a very dense city. So this narrative of the clues, how do you explain someone that doesn't know anything about the site and your intentions, how you are really clear with that narrative? I would also give it a thought. Thank you.
Just to end, in this project, I think it's really nice how a walkway becomes a roof, becomes an access to a larger roof, while it's at the same time a roof to protect yourself from the sun and other things on ground floor. But maybe or it's not explained, or it's maybe something to think about. If you make a public surface on the roof, one floor higher than the main park, I mean, I question, maybe you have to think about what use do you see? What is the difference between activities in the park and activities on the roof? That is, for me, not so clear yet. And what is clear is that it will not be the same.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, let's go.
We have to move. Sorry?
Maybe we move. I think it's too heavy. Yeah. In the way? Yeah, that's a bit better. Joder, colega. Okay.
Perdón, ¿dónde le tengo que dar? Bueno, ya lo veré. I will figure it out. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I am Maria, and this afternoon I'm going to present to you the project Prêt-à-Monter. This is located in Genova, Italy. It's the old harbor of the city, which is especially important, not only because it originated from there, but because of its proximity to the historical center and all the activity. It's been characterized, Genova, by maritime activity, harbor, till the point that it reshaped the waterline. And throughout the years, there's been several transformations trying to give back the water line to the citizens. And in this case, we're located in this big central platform of Genova. It is an unused 30,000 square meters, surrounded by 2 universities, a museum, and 1 ancient industrial part, which is going to be renovated right now, and direct access to big ships of industrial. So the big question is always, and is still today in Genova, does the city needs to de-link from its industrial activity or not, for it to evolve? And in this case, in my opinion, I say it's not only that you need to take out the industrial out of the city, but just reinterpret the word industrial. So the building in this case is on top of this platform. It occupies mostly the whole platform, and it leaves this horizontal compact line to see the mountains and the rest of the city. So in one way, it merges in. Throughout, even if it is really compact, it stacks in several layers because of my interest in patterns and textiles, in constructive and structural parts. So for me, it was really important that this industrial feeling was out, and this wooden textile that looked like a mat that came from the first model was really present, and the main role of it. Then you have in this, well, there's not a lot of time, but you have different courtyards which just not give light, but also ventilation through it. And at the northeast part, you have the most public part, which slowly merges with the most private part and the best views of the sea, which is the fabrication laboratory parts. Here we can see a little bit that we have a halls of exhibition, co-working, the straight connection to the ships with just a platform and a storage part, and then the fabrication with big structures and special sense. So this is a little bit more technical of how the wood is straightened, and how the vegetation can avoid with it, can go with it. And the top part in this part is just not only a public plaza in this case, but it's also the showroom of what happens under it. So in this case, investigated different origami patterns, which resulted in these shapes for solar gains and shades. So as the fabric part and the fabric component and concept, it needs to change and be this temporary structure. So the top part also changes throughout the years, the months in this case, and depends on the use. In this case, it would be, for example, an event of music. This starts to be the public plaza, which is the most developed. And then in the rest of the year would be the same, the plaza when it's not used, or for example, a commercial part with another designer creating the showroom of the top. And this is a final view of how it could be the last event and how it could be viewed from the ferries and the cities. Thank you.
Okay, so hello, I'm Anastasia, and I'm presenting the last finally project for today. And this project is about rewriting the narratives of a zone that was once very famous in Madrid, and now it's actually a little bit abandoned. So we're between the Barrio de la Latina and the Casa de Campo. And this, what you see here, is Recinto de Casa de Campo, that is kind of an expositional landscape that was built in 60s here. It was used for international, national competitions, exhibiting projects there and stuff. And then it's protected by abandoned now. So there's this plurality of what to do with the space next. So I'm obviously trying to reconnect the city with the area. And after some urban analysis, what we're doing here is from the city, this is like the existing situation of some of the urban sections of the zone, moving inside into the zone by some smaller and some bigger tactic and not only tactic interventions, trying to give something back to the city and to people who live in front of it, trying to encourage them to come back to the area, but also showing them that their streets can be a little bit better and it can be connected to something amazing that they have nearby. So, moving through this series of sections, when you finally enter through the park, you're entering this passageway that is a sound pathway, as we're calling it in the project. And then while you're progressing, what this is doing is, to put it simply, it's protecting you from the mechanical, linear, industrial sound that is always present in the zone. And it's focusing your attention on the only key sounds that are present in the area, that are mostly natural because it's a huge park. Advancing a little bit, we find ourselves in one of the first places that result from this kind of placemaking, let's say, that is called Let It Flow, because what we're doing here is restoring the artificial river, which sounds fun, but well, there was an artificial river there and now it's dry, so it's an opportunity to put water and making another sound experience around it. So this is kind of what the place would feel like, or is starting to feel like, let's say. The whole idea of this, there's like the part of the structure of that model, is that the metal blocks, the metal sheets that are surrounding, that are the exterior facade of this thing, they're balanced by these different weights of the cast, of the metal cast, let's call them vases. So they're all a little bit different, so that with the wind you can hear the facade, but just a little. And that's one of them. Then we're getting to one of the most important buildings here, the Pabellón de los Hexágonos. I think you know it, because it once was in Brussels and it won the first prize. Then it was reconfigured. There's also more about it there. And it was brought back here to Casa de Campo. So the idea of the whole pavilion is that with one modular thing, it's adapting to each type of environment, right? and it's fully protected, so you cannot touch it. They have restored it partially now, highly recommended to go and see, but well. So what I'm doing here initially is just acting in the patio, focusing, trying to bring people there through the sound experience of listening to the sky. So you're kind of in the environment, and then if you get yourself inside of this, you could stay there, and this could be like an open scene for a play, for kids to go around and play, for some mini concert, whatever. But then when you get inside of this, hanging aluminum cones, what it does as a normal cone, it amplifies the sound from the top, so it kind of focuses on the sound of the pavilion and what's in another layer above it. Then there's another one, so this whole way we're following takes us to this, which is really interesting because this part is a pre-existing structure of a parking that was never used, which are a lot of them there now. And then what we're doing here is we're building on top. Why? Because of this. Because if you just get on top of this, you bring back the value that is already there, that is an incredible view to Madrid, to the forest. And it's a simple kind of operation, but it matters a lot. Like, it gives a lot of change to the experience of the place. And then finally, you're arriving to the place from which you could also start experiencing the whole complex of the sound experiences, which is the new interpretational center for the sound experiences. So what it does is that this central space is a cone in plan and in section. So it becomes bigger from the smaller to bigger to maximize the amplification. So when you get to the central space, you can get inside just from this side. I'll also show you the model later, but the doors that are kind of made as these cuts in, you could say, paper, are only visible from this side, because from the other side it would disrupt the sound. And what I'm doing here is that in the whole plot, I'm just occupying this small part instead of leveling it, and then giving the space to the actual forest to get inside, to take back its territory, let's say, because this part was the only one that was used, so they made a concrete platform there, and then it was left abandoned like this, and that's why I'm building there, in a kind of controversial, different way to the already existent heavy concrete structures that are there in the area. And this is a little bit more about the experience of this part, and then in a nutshell of all of them. So the thing is that to get to the central space and to fully experience the sound, you need to try not scratching it, right? And you don't want to hear your steps. So you need to get inside, wear some specific like soft shoes, and then get to the central space. And it's kind of separated by a small water mirror from its environment, but it's not trying to separate it, it's trying to protect it and create this feeling of the sacred experience for you to slow down, pay attention, and, well, be ready to listen. And that's about how we construct it, that's about how we ventilate it, that's about how we construct it and ventilate it even more. And that's it. Le estoy diciendo gracias, gracias. Okay.
It's a pity that the images are already gone. In your case, I think, yeah, I'm wondering, it's all very sensitive and about experiences, about acoustics, about sounds, and so on. But what I didn't get is you started talking about an exhibition-like area that is that is dying, or that is inactive, basically, today.
I would say it is dead, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering whether all of these interventions will bring people back.
Well, I'm also wondering that, but that's the hope. That's the idea.
Yeah, so I wonder, don't you need somehow a real program to put in these existing buildings and in between spaces, or do you consider it purely as?
But what is a real
park,
program?
A park with something that I don't know much about the real context, but does it sit in a dense city, and is it a kind of resort-like, I mean, a kind of relax area outside and inside, or?
I mean, it's a park. It's the biggest city park forest, I would call it.
Yeah.
And then the area is dense. It used to be industrialized,
Yeah.
and now it's just a lot of apartments and stuff.
Apartments where?
There was a highway here.
Ah, that's important. That's true.
There was a highway here in the environment.
Yeah.
So all this very dense area suddenly have access directly to the park.
Yeah.
So before it was like really isolated.
Yeah.
Right now it's going to, it has become a park that before was completely cut with a highway, literally a highway. Right now this highway is disappearing. So I think that's a very important.
But there's still a mental barrier. The thing is not just the highway. The highway was there for a long while, and that's true. That's true. And then they're starting to put it down. But the people there, they need the green area. They want to take their kids to the park. They don't need another ugly pool or whatever concert hall.
You don't really need a program.
Again, there are small programs, but why I'm focusing all of it in sound is that I'm trying to bring them back in a way that they want to come back for something recreational to discover the area that they already have there. Because they don't know they need this park, but they do, and we know it, and they have it right there.
Okay, clear.
We convinced him.
Yeah, I'm going to repeat my comment about presentations, but in a different way now, because I think I'm understanding a bit better what's going on. You've been busy working with all the technical, I mean, you've done the technical project for this. And, well, for instance, you showed some images and said, well, this is the structure, but almost not paying a lot of attention to it, right? And you also were, I mean, all those wooden beams with all those metal things. I mean, you've been working on that. And I think you need to go back to the beginning and rewrite the narrative of your project on the basis of what you have now. Because if you start your project saying, with a drawing made for this, saying that dense area, motorway, the motorway is buried, this park is accessible, and the noise of the motorway is gone, so we can do a park of sounds. And then you have that drawing with the pink line with all the elements, and that you say, and I have 6, 7, I don't know how many, 10 elements, 10 points that I include, each dealing with a way to understand sound. And then you put them all in a grid, and then you go one by one. Then we start to understand what's going on.
True.
You see? Or if you say, I want to create a platform for experimentation with textile architecture that is going to be changing with each fashion show in Geneva. If you just say that, then we understand that, yeah, there is a platform, and yeah, and you change and you don't care very much for what goes on top, because that's going to change, and it's not your project. Your project is the infrastructure for that to happen. So I really think that you need to sit down and re-establish your narrative and try to make fresh drawings for that. Because you're using your panels, and your panels are so full of information that one is sitting there like looking at what am I looking at? Yeah? So simple drawings for the jury presentation, the final jury presentation, to rewrite the narrative of those complex panels that you have, that you need to have, but you also need to tell a story. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you. She also says thank you.
So in that sense, I think you have now the time to rethink how to explain things in a more, not only understandable, but readable. Okay? It's about understanding why things had happened. I think Eduardo said that before about Xavier's presentation. He was like giving you clues. So the project was the, let's say, evident answer to what has happened before. So if you put public into the path you want them to be, the answer is like, yes, that's what it should have been done, okay, your project. Okay, so in that sense, being quite strategic about how to deal with what is existing, what you're doing, why you're doing it, makes it much more easier to understand your narrative, but also your decisions.
And also with the context, like showing some images of what
Which
the
I
issue
have.
was, right? Like the railway station that was moved and there was a void, or an aerial view marking with a circle the point where this would happen. I knew who done it, so I already knew that that circle was meaningful. But for anybody else, that was just a circle, right? You see, so to create like the expectation of your project. Okay.
You said it all. You had the mic. You said it all.
Okay.
Okay, could you explain maybe?
Sure.
For me, everything was evident in your project, except
Thank
maybe
you.
the structure, the wooden structure.
The wooden structure.
Explain why it is
The
the way
model.
it is.
Yeah. Well, the wooden structure started from the model, which it was the actually pure experimentation. Yeah, sorry. Just leave it. Yeah, X model. We had an accident in the car, but well, we will fix it later. But the thing is that I was really interested in researching patterns and finding ways of taking concepts from fashion to architecture. And for me, when I went and thought about an industrial big space, for me it was the trusses always, this huge space which you see from above. So I knew that the roof needed to be this mat on top of this platform. And for me, I found this shape that is like weaving the beams, no, or the truss. And after I thought, as I solved it, but first it was just like the concept really of weaving the roof.
But they are wooden beams,
They are wooden beams.
and when they cross each other, do they work together or are they working apart?
That was really interesting. It was a crisis. A crisis. They work independently, so they are just attached. Well, we don't have the picture, but they're just attached through a really thin wire of steel, and they have these beams on top of them, which closes like the truss, and gives the structure for the floor to achieve. So it was kind of really interesting to. Yes, exactly. Without really working as beams, like half beams, but it was really interesting because they could be much thinner just because of dividing the weight by two. It's just like this one, transfer the weight to this one, and it goes back to the pillar. So it was really interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry?
The integrity project.
Yeah, almost. Actually, we thought of, yeah.
Exactly.
We thought about it a lot.
Tension and compression.
Yeah. And yeah, so it was really interesting. Calculus was also interesting. So.
Okay.
Oh.
So
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
thank
okay.
you very much.
thank you. I think we are done. I don't know where Eduardo is, but I will say goodbye. So thank you all. Thanks, Xavier, for coming, Carlos, and of course, students for their hard work. There is small time to go. And congratulations on your work, and thank you for the presentations. Thanks.